Andrew Rohrabaugh, and I want to thank you for joining us today here on WATR. We saw this study from TopRetirements.com, Worst States to Retire 2012, and of course the Northeast and the Midwest come up big losers, and the state of Connecticut worst yet among all these states. Senator, why is it that they would say that? Because we are one of the aging states. A lot of people are staying in place here in Connecticut. For some reason, we like it here. We want to stay here. We know we've got a lot of individuals still living in their, detached homes here in Waterbury. We worry about them during difficult weather as we have had. But why is it that Connecticut, people seem to want to stay here. Why is it such a bad place to retire to?
Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
well, we
how's that for a non sequitur?
Listen, there are very few people who call Connecticut home who don't wish for Connecticut to always be their home. Time and time again, I have met people who have said, Andrew, I've reached the tipping point. I have to make Florida my home because I can't afford to be a Connecticut resident. And there's very few people that want to leave Connecticut if they could afford to stay here. And the reason it's the worst place to retire is because our taxes are so high, our cost of living is so high, and it's very difficult for people to enjoy a good quality of life when there's not enough money to pay your bills.
Okay, so how different are we? In other words, what do we tax, aside from we know what the tax rates are, but let me just ask you, if you are someone who owns your own home now, and, probably the most vicious of all the taxes, I would imagine, given a lot of people are living on Social Security plus just a little more income, would be the property tax. I would imagine that's the killer.
Well, when they did this analysis, they said, you know what, Connecticut and Illinois are tied for first in being the worst. So we have to do a tiebreaker. And for the tiebreaker, let's go to the property tax. And when they went to the property tax, they said, Connecticut, you win. Because that tax is a killer. And it has nothing to do with how much income you have. It has only to do with what your house is worth. And if for somebody who bought their house 40 or 50 years ago, it could be worth a lot today. And if someone who's retired on a fixed income, those property taxes keep on going up and up, and their income doesn't. The cost of living adjustments for Social Security are next to nothing. But that doesn't stop property taxes from going up.
Okay, the other issue, of course, is that most pension income is taxable, although there are some significant exemptions for Social Security depending on income. But Connecticut has the third highest burden. And don't we burden folks more in terms of, putting a levy on some of those retirement incomes?
Yeah, many states, states like New York, exempt pension income from their income tax, and it makes sense. You've worked hard all your life. You've paid your taxes the entire time that you've been working. Now you have a pension, which is what you have earned, essentially, during the course of your work life, and you've contributed to your pension. So you would think that maybe the state would recognize that and choose to exempt pension income from income tax. And many states do it, but we don't. And that, again, is what put us at the top of the list as a bad place to spend your retirement.
So what do we do about it? In other words, is anybody looking at this? We look at policy decisions and we say that the elderly are probably the most forward-thrusting of all the interest groups, well, aside from maybe state employees these days, but because they vote, they know what's going on, they pay a lot of attention, they listen to radio programs, they read the newspaper, and so if they're feeling so put upon in terms of staying in Connecticut, A, why are they staying here? And B, why aren't they more vocal about their concerns? And why isn't the legislature more responsive? Or does it take something like this? Didn't we know all of this before TopRetirements.com reminded us?
Well, that's a multi-part question, Larry. I'll do my best to answer.
Yeah, I give a lot of those tests here. Yeah.
Here's the deal. Not just elderly people, retired people, but everyone in Connecticut understood when this governor and this legislature said 2011 is the right time to pass the biggest tax increase in this state's history. People see those headlines and they say, what am I doing here? As bad as it is now, they're making it worse. And the legislature and the governor seem to say, we don't care. It's more important for us to prop up a system that allows people to retire after 20 years making more than their base pay. I mean, when we raise our taxes, understand what it is that we're paying for. I mean, we're paying to sustain a system which I think is unsustainable. So everyone in Connecticut is paying attention. Retired people are definitely paying attention, and they're feeling it in their wallets, and they have to make rational decisions. I say no one wants to leave. I mean,
No, I understand that, but we've been talking about property tax reform in the state of Connecticut for as long as I have been, aware of what goes on at the state capitol. I mean, we've been talking about it, and for some reason, nothing ever seems to get done. Even when Governor Rell put together that idea about real property in terms of cars and doing away with that, and of course, everybody laughed her out of the building, for that. I mean, nobody has really put together a property tax reform agenda that has made any sense. Now we're looking at the ECS formula in terms of funding education, and I don't know what that's going to do, but everybody's afraid of moving that around because it's going to make winners and losers out of different communities. Small towns are concerned. I mean, are we just paralyzed in the state to make the types of reforms that are necessary to keep older folks, let's say, in their homes? We've had circuit breakers, we've had other, mechanisms, and we tend to play with those from time to time. I mean, is there going to be a property tax reform agenda in the state? Just as an example, I mean, I know about the other taxes, but if this is the most onerous one for the elderly, is there something we can start to look at here?
Well, the sad news is one party owns all of Hartford. The Democrats own the governor's office, they own the House of Representatives, they own the state Senate. And as long as one party is in power, I don't think we're going to see an appetite to make the kind of hard changes that we need to make to bring property taxes under control. What Connecticut needs is a Chris Christie. New Jersey is a state that was totally collapsing under the weight of property taxes, and Chris Christie came in and had the courage to tell people what the bitter medicine was that the state needed to take if they wanted to reduce the property tax. And it hasn't been fun, it hasn't been easy, but it's what was necessary to address the problem. But I don't think you're going to see that kind of leadership from Governor Malloy or the Democrats in the legislature.
Okay, let me just lay it on the line. Are we talking about, at this point, we talk about a lot of cross-generational divides in America that are going to become very significant, and maybe the interest by young people in Ron Paul is the fact that he says we can't burden the next generation in the way that we are, and we've got to cut back. So maybe they're hearing that and saying, yeah, I want to have a career for a reason, not to pay for somebody to live in a convalescent home. Now, my question is, are we really talking about here, and let's be honest about it, a divide between ultimately the benefits for public employees versus the needs to help the elderly in the state of Connecticut stay here and live a life where they are not, disadvantaged by a regressive tax like the property tax? Are we really talking about public employees versus the elderly?
Well, the way I see it is there's only so much money to go around, and because we have given public employees benefits that are pretty much unheard of in the private sector, not the least of which are you can retire after 20 years, you can pad your pension. I'm going to be introducing a bill, Larry, and I hope you'll pay attention to it, that will say for new hires in the state of Connecticut, only for new hires, there will be no pension padding, and will require you to have a 401k retirement plan, a defined contribution plan.
Well, somehow Rhode Island, which is a very Democratic state, with an independent governor and a Democratic legislature, they got this kind of thing done. I mean, of course you can get it done. You should be able to get it done at this moment in time. I mean, we can't kid ourselves. We've got obligations that you and I know are not sustainable unless we raise taxes again and again and again.
Right. And so I'm going to be proposing this bill to say, let's make these changes for new hires. And I'm willing to place a bet with you that I'm not going to be able to get that bill passed because the union leadership is so protective, even though it wouldn't hurt anybody, because any new hire would know the rules of the game. But if we can't get the easy stuff done, how how are we ever going to get to the hard stuff that needs to be done to help elderly people stay in their homes, to reduce the property tax burden? In this state, as you say, Rhode Island, you just have to do the math.
Yeah.
And in Connecticut, it seems like nobody has a calculator.
But we're going to have a computer so we can gamble about all of this online.
Right.
Hey, let me go to Waterbury Paul for Senator Rohrabaugh. Hi, Waterbury Paul.
Good morning. Good morning. Gentlemen, good morning, Senator. Senator, I have in front of me my 2010 Connecticut income tax table.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you were aware of this, Senator, but couples that get Social Security, of course, pay it on their federal tax. Let's say, and I got the example here, let's say a married couple get $30,000 together on their federal income tax.
Yep.
They have to pay $15,000 of it is taxable. Half of it is taxable.
Yes.
Now, that $15,000 that is taxable on your federal income tax can be deducted on your state income tax. Were you aware of that?
Yes. Federal taxes are.
Well, now here's the example I'm taking at, and this was brought up on another talk show by a gentleman who was an accountant, and he got back at what certain people have been talking about. A married couple in this state who make $60,000 and $15,000 of it can be deducted because of their Social Security payment to the federal IRS and their $500 property tax deductible. Their total tax on that money is only $54. That's not too bad. For a couple making $60,000, you tell me $54 isn't a fair deal.
No, I have to agree. That's not a bad deal.
You bet your life it isn't. And another thing, Mr. Rohrabaugh, you know, you Republicans get on. Now, I know, for instance, certain companies are going to be hurting by the sick time bill that was passed.
Lots of companies are going to be hurting.
And yet it was one of your own men by the name of Kissel who was the deciding vote. Can you explain that?
Well, I can't explain.
No, you know, that's the trouble with you guys up there. There's no difference between the Republicans and Democrats. And you can take that to the bank. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, Paul.
And Larry, just so your listeners understand, the Republicans in Hartford have been using every ounce of energy we have to push back on this agenda of the governor and the Democrats in the legislature. There wasn't a single Republican vote for that budget that passed. We have been trying to reveal what a fiction this concession package is. So, Paul, I appreciate your opinion, but I don't think you're being fair to the hard work that's being done by lots and lots of Republicans in the Capitol.
You know, the only thing I would say is Senator Rohrabaugh, and I've got to run, but, you know, the governor does make a good case that we've had Republican governors for a long period of time. We've had excesses in state government because during good times, I remember everybody trying to sign on to a credit that they wanted to send back to me. Things were going so great. And, you know, we've had, you know, malfeasance on the part of both parties for a long time. And I understand that, you know, this raising of taxes as it was done is very unpopular. Of course it is. But unless we all figure out what we want from this state government, and unless we all can work toward that end, and even when the Republicans had control of the legislature, one could argue, I mean, of the executive branch for a long time, a lot of these proposals, a lot of these real reforms and changes that we're talking about, I don't think they were pursued with any aggressiveness. And so I think both parties have got to look at where they've been in the past, and we've, you know, forget about that for the moment, because right now we've got to fix the future here in Connecticut, and we've got a lot of issues to deal with, and not the least of which is that, and you know, this aside about, you know, the worst place to retire, I just don't think we're being honest about the obligations that we have going forward, that a lot of people think they're real, but I just don't think we can hold to them. I really don't.
And that's why yesterday's news was that we're one of the top 10 states unable to pay its bills. We have $71 billion in unfunded health and pension liabilities in this state. The day of reckoning is going to be on us very quickly, Larry. And when that day of reckoning comes, it's not going to be a pretty picture for anyone.
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And, this cash flow issue, I think, does play into that. I mean, I know we played with funds before, but Denise Napier having to take things out of more discrete funds that were for capital projects and move them over, that's not something we do all the time.
No, and it's not something that we should be proud of. This is our state, despite having the largest tax increase in history, we still are teetering on the edge, just barely. I think we're going to run the governor says we're going to have a $100 million surplus this year. That's only if his concession package comes true. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to have another deficit this year, despite the largest tax increase in our history.
Okay, thank you. Senator Andrew Rohrabaugh for coming on today and talking about all these issues. They are all important. And it's interesting because we also have to fund teachers' a pension. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we did some bonding for that, Jim Amon and Denise Napier. And yet now I guess we're falling behind on that again. So we've got obligations that are piled upon, other obligations that is pretty startling and pretty frightening.
Hey, folks, Pastor Michael Festa here. We're killing the